What is going on, everybody? John Impemba here with Howard Bender. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NFL DFS show, week 5 here. Howard, how the season has quickly been moving here, sir.
It's ridiculous. I think I said to you before we even started, I'm like starting up every article that I write with, and just like that, it's week 5 of the NFL season. It's definitely flying by. In a great way, though, I think. I mean, I'm having a great time as far as my fantasy teams go. Last week was a little bit of a downturn in the DFS world for me, but that was strictly because Javonte Williams got, injured in the first quarter of the game, and then he was lost for the rest of the way. And you're not going to, unless you hit every single other play, it's really tough to overcome a 0. Or I don't even know. Maybe it was like a 0.2 or a 0.3 that Javonte gave us. But it was disgusting there. So for that aspect, whatever, you can't predict injuries, but overall, man, dude, I love it. By the way, I got to shout out to Brian Burns, our producer, who created the intro there. Yeah. I don't understand why he makes you look so cool and he makes me look like such a dope, right? Yeah. Like, I'm like,
it's the photos that we, provided. I just, took a nice photogenic photo there in my honeymoon in Italy. Got to go ahead and clip that one. And then, you gave him the photo that you gave him. So, it's just we get him some updates here if you want to change the look, Howard. But I think it looks good. It brings a little energy to the show, starting it off. So I like as it is. And you're not wrong, right? Week 4 was definitely a little interesting. Devin A-Chain, to those who played him, rewarded once again with a big fantasy day. With the touchdown production there. Quarterback play was overall solid. You were dead on with the Carolina Panthers pass defense. Justin Jefferson had a good game, but not the games we've seen out of Jefferson of late. I was all in on Josh Jacobs. Christian McCaffrey had a 50 fantasy point game. Those are 2 of my favorite running backs of the slate here. So, it's all about roster construction. We talk about that all the time, Howard. And if you can put the right pieces of the puzzle together, you'll find success. Some days that happens, some weeks it doesn't. We're here in week 5 now, and it's a 10-game slate. I think this is the smallest main slate we've had so far to this point in the year. And now it's becoming a bit more interesting because we have a potentially returning Cooper Kupp, a potentially returning Jonathan Taylor this week as well. And we're getting some other injury news here. Maybe no Amon-Ra St. Brown this week for the Lions, and how that could shape that offense in their matchup against the Carolina Panthers. So a lot to get to here today. Any final thoughts before we hop into the slate?
No, I mean, I just did some updates to the DFS watch list. You guys can find that over at fantasyalarm.com. I will say, if you're watching us here for free, you need to get over to fantasyalarm.com/win. Sign up right now. This is the last week that you're going to get that 7-day free trial. And if you do it right now, see, there's the QR code right there on the screen. You can, take a picture of that, or you can go to fantasyalarm.com/win. And what happens is you'll sign up for the monthly, and then you'll get that 7-day free trial just to take it for a spin, see how you like it. And I'll tell you what, if you do that right now, well, then you're going to kind of overlap into NFL week 6 as well. And you're going to be able to get, your eyeballs onto the playbook and everything else that we've got going on here. So yeah, I mean, let's dive right in. I mean, you're very right that it's about roster construction. So figuring out where we're paying up and where we're paying down this week is going to be vital to the success of both our cash game lineups and our GPP tournament lineups as well.
Agreed. The biggest matchup on the board this week in terms of point game total is the Minnesota Vikings against the Kansas City Chiefs. No surprises then. You see Patrick Mahomes here at $8,200 as your top price quarterback. You have Jalen Hurts up here at $8K, Lamar Jackson $7,800, Tua at $71, and Richardson is up to $7K. Those are your top 5 price quarterbacks. Last week, I had Tua in my fade section of the QB coach against Buffalo. That came through. This week, I have him in the top tier section for me at home against the Giants. Howard, what's your thoughts here on the top tier quarterbacks this week?
I mean, listen, Mahomes is easily in play, no doubt about it. I think that's the thing, and we might as well just get right out with it here. Especially if you're talking about your cash game lineups, paying up at QB seems to be the way to go. Mahomes is in a great spot. Hurts is in a great spot. I even like Lamar Jackson and Tua as possible high-end quarterbacks that you're going to want to end up using. If you're going down, if you're just looking at this rundown here on DraftKings, any of these guys up to Kirk Cousins, I think, is 100% in play for both cash games and tournament lineups.
Okay, listen, I think Richardson is in an interesting spot this week. Obviously, we know Tennessee struggles against the pass. Last week aside, because Joe Burrow just clearly isn't 100%. But I am curious as to what the offense looks like with Jonathan Taylor. Now, obviously, it's run really well with Zach Moss. So, is there going to be a drop off? Probably, I don't think so. But are they going to change maybe a focus of their offense because they have Jonathan Taylor over Zach Moss, or are they going to just continue to kind of run the way they are with Richardson leading the way?
I feel like they're going to keep. I mean, obviously, the scheme is going to stay intact. I think maybe they do a little bit more running with Jonathan Taylor. This is not the matchup for that, though. I mean, you're going up against the Tennessee Titans, and they've got a strong defensive line. They do stop the run very well. But what I think that this ends up doing is having Jonathan Taylor, especially if you're going to run an RPO, right? And having Jonathan Taylor, to pitch the ball back to, you can take it yourself. But then what it also does is, I'm not saying that everybody was disrespecting Zach Moss, but if you've got Richardson and Jonathan Taylor, and either one of those guys can run the football, then you're going to need somebody to pinch in and help out in stuffing the run. And that, to me, is going to open up Michael Pittman a little bit more. I got Lisa Ann on the Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Better show trying to teach me some basketball. So I was like, well, how about this for a triangle offense? You've got Jonathan Taylor, Anthony Richardson, and Michael Pittman, the ultimate triangle right there. Right. So, I kind of like that. So I do think that kind of it opens things up a little bit more for Richardson. Out of these quarterbacks, he's probably him and Tua are probably my least favorite.
Okay.
Only because, as much as I love Tua and Tyreek, you just run on the Giants. Sure. If you've got Achane, you've got Jalen Waddle. I don't even know if everybody keeps talking about stashing Jeff Wilson. I don't even know if that dude's back yet or not.
Well, they just traded for Claypool. So, not that Claypool I don't think is available to play this week. I don't know. I imagine not, since he was inactive for yesterday's game, but I don't know. He's probably going to be, not as involved anyways moving forward. I don't mind Tua because I think the way that offense was kind of not embarrassed, but they had a lot of steam going into that week, and then they felt flat passing the football against Buffalo, that they could go out there maybe and just want to show that, hey, we can still throw the football. You have the Giants. What would they have, like 2 rookie cornerbacks out there last week? That ends up being the case here again. Like, they could have some struggles. Plus, I talked about this a coup on Wednesday's show, quick outs. You got the Miami flu, right? You got the 1-3 Giants going into Miami, down off of a really bad loss. And you know what? Maybe they go out to Miami Saturday night, and now they don't want to go and play against a Dolphins team here. So I don't mind Tua in lineups. If you can find a way to pay for Mahomes, that's great. I've struggled to really get him into like the true game stacks that I kind of want to build around here today. But we'll see. You got to go down and find some value. It's only a 10-game slate, so the player pool is a little bit less than we've been accustomed to as well. But we did look at some rostership here before we went on, and we do have some maybe surprising or not surprising value that a lot of the field is finding themselves going to. Cousins, I agree 100%, $6,900. You'll see him probably pretty popular this week, getting in that matchup against Kansas City after the way Zach Wilson looked throwing against KC last week. But where else do you find yourself in this mid-tier range? Does anybody stand out to you above the rest?
Mid-tier range for quarterbacks. Stafford is probably, where I'm looking. I'm not going to listen. Jared Goff against Carolina. No, I can't trust Joe Burrow, even though it's a great matchup. I just have not seen anything out of Joe Burrow that I really enjoy. I know everybody's in on CJ Stroud. He's not one of my favorites this week. I think Atlanta's pass defense is vastly superior to what we've seen Houston go up against. So, Nico Collins to me doesn't have a great matchup going up against AJ Terrell. You've got Jeffrey Okudah on the other side. D. Alfred handles the slot work. And then you've got Jesse Bates floating around in the as the safety.
Yeah.
And so I don't love this matchup here for CJ Stroud, and everybody's in on him. And, listen, I get that. Okay. Because you're seeing what, he's throwing the ball 40 times a game.
Pretty much.
And I mean, so you're looking at volume probably, but are you looking at quality volume for that? So for me, Stafford against the Eagles, who give up a lot of passing yards, not to mention you could have Cooper Kupp back for him floating around there. I mean, God, could you imagine that? Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell, and Tyler Higbee, all just running around out there, running their routes, trying to get everything going. Kyron Williams could do like a block and release. He could come out and be a passing target there as well for Stafford. If the offensive line could just give him a little bit of time to throw the ball, I think Stafford's in a really, really nice spot. And then for me, then I go to Josh Dobbs. And I look at Arizona because, and I just added Dobbs into the watch list. I get it. There's not a lot of great history here. Nobody really likes Arizona. But when you look at Josh Dobbs, I mean, this dude's averaging 48 rushing yards per game over the last 3 weeks. That raises the floor. He's bonding with Michael Wilson, who's now seen an increased snap count and target share. And then you've got Marquise Brown, Rondale Moore, Zach Ertz. I mean, this is a really nice passing attack going up against a team that, again, Chidobe Awuzie is banged up. Cam Taylor-Britt, the other cornerback, he's questionable for this week. They lost Von Bell. They lost Jesse Bates in the secondary. This is not a good defense for Cincinnati. And go look at all the metrics that you want. It's showing that it's not a good situation here for the Bengals. So why not Josh Dobbs?
Yeah, listen, no arguments here. I actually will get to running back, but James Conner is actually one of my favorite running backs this week in the mid-tier. You look at the DVOA defense, Cincinnati ranks 30th against the run. So you can see Arizona really running the football. On the Dobbs rushing yards point, Howard, I got to tell you, one of the most enticing props that I found this week over on Underdog Fantasy, Josh Dobbs rushing yards set at 20.5. For a guy that's gone for 48, 55, and 41. Now, he's had some big runs there. He had 23-yard gainer against the Giants. He had a 44-yarder against Dallas of the 55 that he had. But he did have 48 yards against San Francisco, 12 carries, 6 carries. So, he's certainly a mobile guy. The 20.5 rushing yards has been something that I keep eyeing, and I'll probably eventually just pull the trigger on the over because, maybe he gets flushed out of the pocket and, he makes a run for it. But I don't mind Dobbs there at $5,200 as the value play. On the Stroud point, I said this to Coop on the Quick Out Show on Wednesday. I'll probably have a share of Stroud if I'm making like 20 lineups this week because generally in the past, teams that have played in London have had the bye week in the past. The league gave those teams options to take bye weeks. Atlanta is obviously not taking their bye week, but you wonder, is there any sort of jet lag? I know when I went to Europe, when I came back, I was waking up at like 5 a.m. for like 3 weeks. My whole time.
Welcome to my world, Johnny. Welcome to being an old man.
My whole time sense was thrown off coming back here to the States. So they were only there for like a week. But still, who knows? Maybe the jet lag gets to Atlanta here a little bit. This is the only reason I'd be willing to throw Stroud in a lineup if I was building out there. After that, I had no interest in any of the value plays here. Stafford's a fine call. I like Kupp, like Dobbs, but like Bryce Young, Mac Jones, Pickett, I wasn't going anywhere down here. So you won't find me playing anybody cheaper than Dobbs this week.
Okay, I can dig it. Let's move on then.
Running back.
Let's go.
Barkley, questionable to play this week. At 81, I'm not really going to do that one here. Love Bijan Robinson at $7,700, 28th in DVOA against the run. Do you find Houston? Derrick Henry coming off of a pretty good game here. David Montgomery was my number one with a bullet play. First thing I did this week when I made lineups was plug David Montgomery and build around it. I think a lot of people will be doing that, but that's not going to scare me off playing Montgomery this week.
No, I mean, we talk about this, right? We talk about when you're building listen, David Montgomery is going to be a cash game lock play this week because his ownership is likely to be through the roof. When you're talking about GPP tournament lineups, you can still utilize a guy who is highly owned if you think that he is definitely going to pop off and differentiate yourself from the rest of the herd with, somebody else. Like, build a Josh Dobbs, Arizona stack.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Can you imagine that? I mean, you could go Dobbs, Connor, Wilson. You could go Dobbs, Ertz, Wilson. You could do all of that where, maybe not a lot of people are on that play. And that allows you to, get a guy like Montgomery into your lineup, So I'm in on Montgomery 100% with you.
Yeah, should be a no-brainer. Again, a lot of people are going to go there, pulling up what our rostership projections currently have that. Just to give you guys an example, we can get with your Fantasy Alarm All-Pro membership here and the 7-day free trial if you sign up right now as well. We have Montgomery.
18.4% on DK.
Yeah.
He is the fourth highest owned projected player already.
Yep. So, again, a lot of people are going to be going there. Not too shocking. So, you have him there. Alvin Kamara, last week I said on the show, the live streams, my favorite prop of the week was Kamara over 2.5 receptions. He had 13 receptions. This week, that prop has been bumped up to 4.5. The Patriots against running back pass plays this year currently rank in terms of DVOA defense 24th. So Derek Carr is going to be the quarterback this week against a Belichick defense that lost Judon, that lost Gonzalez, that seems to be on a little bit of flux here. If that shoulder is still a problem for Carr, and check down City all day, I think Alvin Kamara is still far too cheap again at $6,300.
Yeah, definitely worthwhile. Definitely worthwhile. I'm not going to argue against it. I'm not going to argue against. I mean, listen, as long as he's getting those checkdowns, and what do you have? 13 catches last week?
13 catches.
13 catches.
And people will laugh. Well, he only had 33 yards. That doesn't matter in a full PPR format.
Yeah, it's still 13 points.
13 points, just simply in catches. So, listen, if he's 21 fantasy points in his debut here, he should be at least $1,000 more expensive in my opinion. So I have no problem rolling him out. Is A-Chain a trap for you this week?
I'm not going to say he's a trap for me this week. I'm probably going to have some shares of him, just because it's the Giants and it's a weak run defense, but I'm not going to overinvest. I mean, I think it's very telling here right now that Mostert is $100 more than he is, and the two of them are like back to back with each other. Like this is the DFS sites being like, we don't know, you figure it out.
Neither running back had the volume last week because they were down so much. 8 carries for A-Chain, 7 for Mostert. Mostert obviously had far less success on the ground. Both were involved in the passing game here. So it will be interesting to see. This could be telling. If A-Chain leads the backfield this week, you'll now know the rotation there in Miami. Anybody else as we move our way down? I mentioned James Conner's one of my favorite plays, $5,800. Again, this guy is getting the volume, gets a little bit of work in the passing game. And then you look at the DVOA defense for Cincinnati against the run, and they're terrible. They're ranked 30th against the run this year. So I like Conner in this spot.
I do too. I'm not gonna, I feel like DeAndre Swift is the banana in the tailpipe that nobody wants to fall for. I mean, it's a good matchup for him against the Rams. I know that the opposition here on DK says that they're ninth best run defense, but I honestly don't think that the
in terms of DVOA, they rank 24th. So.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not, I mean, I could be enticed into using him, but I'm like you, man. I mean, if I'm going to look at Swift, I might as well, pay up like 300 more for like a Kamara, or 600 more for a David Montgomery, pay down to James Conner. I like that at 5,800. And then, or down even further. How about 5,400 for Breece Hall?
Yeah.
It's we're taking the restrictions off of Breece Hall. There's no snap count anymore. There's no carry monitoring that we're doing. We're just going to run with Breece Hall as much as we can. And we all know that Denver's run defense is atrocious.
31st in DVOA against the run. Khalil Herbert ran for 100 yards against them. So, yeah.
107. They're giving up 176 rushing yards per game. They've allowed 7 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah. Obviously skewed slightly by the Miami game, but they've been bad all season long. That doesn't really take away that here. I'm with you. It's just whether or not we're getting coach speak here. He has no snap count, no restrictions. Okay, but are you going to give him the football? Right? Like,
well, all right. So here's the thing, and because it's the Jets, I'll say one of the reasons. I mean, I will have shares of Breece Hall, but I'm not going to overinvest, even though Denver's defense looks so bad, because there is so much talk about this being a Nathaniel Hackett revenge game because of everything Sean Payton said about him and the previous coaching regime in Denver. And it's like, if we're going to focus that energy onto Nathaniel Hackett and do whatever Nathaniel Hackett says to do, we're screwed. We're screwed because Nathaniel Hackett sucks at calling plays. If Aaron Rodgers is with the team and he's in the booth and he's got a direct line into Zach Wilson, maybe I'm okay with it. And then maybe we'll see enough Breece Hall. But Hackett is such a lousy offensive coordinator that I feel like, and again, this could just be the pessimistic Jets fan in me, but I do feel like it could be a trap.
This is also a Breece Hall revenge game. This was the exact game almost to the day, or at least the month of when he tore his ACL last year. Tore his ACL in Denver last season.
Right, but it wasn't I mean, this isn't revenge.
It's a personal bounce back moment. This is the field that he tore his ACL. He now doesn't have any restrictions on him. He had 4 for 72 and a score in that game before he tore down the ACL. So maybe he has a little personal motivation to get back to the field that derailed his career a little bit,
Listen, I will happily, when I'm playing on FanDuel and I go with 3 running backs, because I always like a running back in my flex on FanDuel. Yep. I use a receiver or a tight end in my flex on DraftKings. Bijan Robinson, David Montgomery, Breece Hall.
Yeah. I sent you my FanDuel initial build here. It had 3 running backs in it. Big fan of that this week. Would you have any Dalvin Cook? No.
I mean, in season long, yes, and I'm ready to shred all those shares right now.
All right, more value, I guess, to talk about potentially. Jaleel McLaughlin, if there's no Williams, any interest?
No, not really. Not against the Jets run D.
Okay. Gus Edwards against Pittsburgh?
A little bit, yeah. A little bit of interest there. Gus he's seen a double-digit carries in each of the last 3 games, and his carries have increased each time. There's nothing glamorous about him. He's not like a huge pass catcher, which obviously turns a lot of people off. But, I mean, he gets the short yardage work, and I'm perfectly fine riding that Gus bus.
Yep, I'm with you there as well. Again, I know a lot of people were hyping up the kid they activated off IR this week in the waiver wire articles and whatnot, but I don't imagine that being an initial play if he's even active for this.
Oh, weekend. Dude, he's going to go get in for a touchdown. And, see, you know what? Here's the funny thing is that a ton of people are going to use him. A ton of people are going to use Jameson Williams also coming back. And we'll get to that wide receiver talk in a little bit. The one thing that I want everybody to realize, especially if you lost at DFS in week 4, the winning lineups were loaded with Justin Fields. They were loaded with Devon Achane. Neither one of those guys were a good play. You could have some exposure to them if you believe in the Bears, but there was nothing that you had seen through the first 3 weeks of the season that said that Justin Fields and anybody on the Bears was a smart play for last week. There are people who are they're max lineup players, and they'll do that if they're doing a 20 max, if they're doing just a regular MME, mega multi-entry, and they can throw in 150 lineups, they will have those shares. It was the same thing with Achane. Right. It wasn't a great play last week. You knew it wasn't a great play last week, but people were like, yeah, he was so great and 4 touchdowns the week before, blah, 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 blah. Those were the winning lineups last week, but those were not smart lineups to play, especially in cash games. I went through my cash games, where I lost Javonte Williams, figuring how much can I leave myself, to blame for some of these lineups that didn't cash. And I looked at the winning lineups and I was littered with Bears and Devon Achane. And that to me is not that's not a smart cash game lineup. And if the optimizers are spitting that out for cash, we'll beat everybody 9 times out of 10.
Right. I agree. Let's move on over to the wide receiver position here again. It gets expensive, and now we have potential added guys and guys taken away. So Jefferson's at 94. Went averaging 150 yards in 3 of the 4 games this season. Obviously, last week, minor step back, 85 and 2 touchdowns. Oh, no. Now he gets Kansas City this week. You have Tyreek Hill maybe be looking for a bounce back after a disappointing performance against Buffalo last week. Cooper Kupp got expected to play $8,600. I don't know if you want to pay the tag on a returning Cooper Kupp. A.J. Brown has been a monster. Tough to trust Cincinnati. Maybe no Amon-Ra St. Brown. Bender, when looking at the top tier wide receivers, outside of Jefferson, obviously, is there interest in you anywhere else?
Well, and Tyreek Hill, obviously, too. I mean, yeah, if you can get either one of those guys in there, absolutely, you're going to want to make that happen. Although L'Jarius Sneed on Justin Jefferson should be a very interesting kind of back and forth there. I mean, listen, I feel like if you're a multi-lineup player, you've got to get exposure to Cooper Kupp. You have to, only because him and Stafford. Now we need to see if he's going to be on any kind of a snap count, if there are any restrictions whatsoever, because then all of a sudden, like if Cooper Kupp is there and he's playing, and then the question is who's the contrarian play? If he's on a snap count, is Kupp the contrarian play? Or if he's not on a snap count, is Puka Nacua the contrarian play there for that offense? Philadelphia gives up a lot of passing yards, and teams know that they have to throw on them. So I feel like you definitely need to get some exposure in there. Same thing with A.J. Brown. I think, with the way he's been playing, although, I don't know, man, Devonta Smith, the opposite of the squeaky wheel getting the grease.
Right. I Brown, since he made that statement, as we've talked about his last couple of weeks, 175 and 131 there through the air. And the Rams gave up a lot of yards to Jamar Chase 2 weeks ago. So, I mean, it could be Brown taking advantage of that again. With an active Kupp, I don't think anybody's going to pay $7,700 for Puka Nacua, but if he continues to be the top guy there, even with Kupp back, or if Kupp is limited, could have a low roster potential there with Nacua here against Philly this week. I think Olave is kind of interesting. Again, the Patriots secondary is so beat up now. Their defensive line is beat up. If Carr doesn't go, like maybe Olave at $6,900 could be a tournament play.
Yeah, I'm just so lukewarm on Olave in that situation. I know you got, J.C. Jackson is going to be coming back, and I know that, with no
Miles
Christian
Bryant is probably the guy that's covering Chris Olave. I mean, that's not good.
It's not. But again, it's also Derek Carr and his sprained AC joint, and what kind of accuracy are we looking at? I mean, there was a reason that Alvin Kamara caught 13 passes.
Listen, no doubt. No doubt about it.
So it's a little worrisome.
Sure. Pittman, as we've both talked about, we like Pittman a lot this week at $6,400. Would you dip your toe in the Garrett Wilson well here? $6,000 come out 14 targets.
Yeah, I mean you can. I'm not incredibly bullish on it, but I definitely think that it's something you can do. Yes.
Okay. Anybody else in this mid tier that maybe we haven't discussed?
Mid tier. No. I mean, Zay Flowers always should. I think Zay Flowers always warrants being part of the conversation.
He's due for like a big game or a touchdown or something, right? Like. Right. This feels like it's coming his way. I don't mind Addison in a bounce back spot.
I was just going to say Addison is somebody who I think we can definitely look at as well.
How did he get one target? How did he manage one target? Like, what did he? I can't imagine he gets one target in a game with a 53.5 over under against the Chiefs, though. So, for a guy that had double-digit fantasy points the first 3 weeks, I'd be willing to take a look at Addison here as a bounce back at $5,300 as well. I still like Thielen. I know Detroit. Believe it or not, defensively, both against the pass and the run. We know against the run, but even against the pass, Detroit, in terms of DVOA, has been pretty good this year. They're sitting, I think, 8th in DVOA. Yeah, 8th in DVOA against the pass. But, I mean, Adam Thielen last week, 7 catches, 8 targets. He had 7 catches, 9 targets with Bryce Young 2 weeks ago. Obviously, he had the 11 for 14 with Dalton. But, if they're gonna just keep peppering this dude at 5K, then I'm gonna keep going to the well here.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's a great spot to be in, absolutely, for Thielen. I obviously prefer him with Andy Dalton and Bryce Young.
Sure,
but I'm not going to totally hate on the play.
Nope. You mentioned the Arizona stack. I actually had Hollywood in a lineup last week. Don't mind going back there against Cincinnati. You mentioned their beat up secondary here. 5K feels a little bit too cheap with the way Dobbs is throwing that football right now.
Yeah. I think 5K might be a little too cheap there. Although, again, it depends on what you think about Michael Wilson and whether he's going to step in. Before we dive all the way down there, Let me ask you about Tank Dell.
Sure.
4,800. I was, kind of breaking down the matchup here, and I don't like Nico Collins' matchup. It's the slot receiver that, you've got D. Alford, covering, and that seems to be the spot. Do you like Tank Dell, or would you consider instead going down to like Robert Woods?
Yeah, I mean, with Dell, he's more obviously the explosive player here, still seeing around 70% of the offensive snaps, so he's going to be out there. I don't mind it in tournaments because, again, we saw what he can do. He has that big play capability. He had the 70-yard touchdown, against Jacksonville there. I'm trying to see what his general snap positioning is here. Is he purely in their slot? Let's see. What do we got? He has 39 slot snaps there, 63% overall snap share. That's not bad. So, yeah, I can see that. I could see him having himself a go in some tournament lineups this week, especially like you said, you think Nico Collins draws the tougher spot. So $4,800 isn't bad.
Okay.
Feel the same way about Michael Thomas as I did Olave. Thomas 4 catches, 6 on 6 targets for 53 yards. It could be that Olave with the AC joint is a no-go, but Michael Thomas, because he plays a little bit of that possession receiver game, maybe has Derek Carr's eye a little bit more. $4,900 for him feels a little bit low, because I just don't trust this Patriots secondary. So
now here's the interesting thing. When we talk about fixing, having a short memory from week to week or anything like that, as bad as the Pats defenses looked, and the loss of Judon is a big deal, do you feel like Bill Belichick steps up his work this week against New Orleans because it's a home game and, he's Bill Belichick?
I mean, I don't think you could ever count out some sort of scheming, but for as long as we've followed football, the whole adage of Bill Belichick is like nobody gets more out of their players, right? He coaches them up with the best, but losing Christian Gonzalez, your first round pick, who was shutting down opposing number 1 wide receivers, and losing your sack leader just feels like, just very difficult to come back from. A lot of people look at that game against Dallas last week and see all the points they allowed, but 2 of those are pick sixes or a fumble recovery for a touchdown, a pick 6 for a touchdown. Mac Jones not really giving the defense chances. I think it was only 20 actual points credited against the defense for New England.
Oh, so you guys are like the Dallas Cowboys then.
The
defense is doing all the scoring and your offense sucks balls.
Yeah, right, exactly. So the Patriots offense or defense isn't actually allowing a ton of points. It's their offense that's turning the ball over and allowing points to score. I don't know. Belichick obviously will scheme to take away the best play. Maybe that ends up being Kamara, but I just don't know if they're going to be good enough this week to do that. So
okay.
I don't know. It's interesting for me. I think, I know you don't like playing the Detroit passing offense, but if there's no Amon-Ra St. Brown, do you give Reynolds a look at 42 as the number 1 receiver in that offense?
Not especially. No, I mean, he doesn't have the same talent as Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's been there. There's a reason that Josh Reynolds is more journeyman receiver than anything else. Mm-hmm. He's good. But against a top-notch secondary, again, you're also dealing with a pass rush. You're dealing with linebackers who can fall back into coverage a little bit better. Sure. So yeah, no, I'm not really interested in Reynolds. I'll again, I'll push further down. I'll look at KJ Osborne. I'll look at Robert Woods.
Sure.
I'll even look at DJ Chark.
Yeah, Chark could be a guy. Jameson, would you just throw a dart there or no?
If I'm a multi-lineup player, yes, I'll have a share or two of him. But, again, this is, Dan Campbell's come out and said it. He wants him to be a more complete wide receiver. This isn't just about, running a post pattern and beating the coverage, which could happen. It could definitely happen. But Campbell wants more out of him. He wants him to be able to go across the middle. He wants to turn him into, just a bigger threat than just like a regular deep threat. So, I'll just, for 4,000, I'll have a share of him, but sure. I don't expect him to be like a really, especially when you take a look at how he's handled Jahmyr Gibbs. Yeah. Campbell hasn't taken the reins off of Gibbs, and you look at that and you say, well, maybe Gibbs doesn't know the playbook well. Maybe he's not, not excelling at practice, whatever it is. I'm sure that there is equal scrutiny on Jameson Williams that there is on Jahmyr Gibbs right now.
Gibbs is going to be kind of an interesting watch this week if St. Brown's out, right? They kept on talking about Jahmyr Gibbs lining up and playing wide receiver in the slot and doing all these things. Could maybe finally see Jahmyr Gibbs do a little something here.
Well, Johnny, it's like my great granddaddy used to say: you can wish in one hand and crap in the other, and see which one fills up first.
That's fair. All right, value plays here on the week. The number one value play in terms of rostership this week, Howard, and you were stunned to see it when it came out, was Wan'Dale Robinson.
Boom.
Wan'Dale is sitting here at $3,000 with an apparent questionable tag here after a limited Thursday practice. 11 targets, 9 catches in the 2 weeks he's been active for. $3,000. He is your highest rostered value as of current updates to our rostership projections.
Yeah.
How much exposure with that knowledge do you have of Wan'Dale Robinson this week?
I mean, if he's going to be that highly owned, then I'll take the free square and cash games.
Okay.
It makes no sense to not do that. It's going to be really interesting to see because, and if you look at the wide receiver rostership projections here, you've got a couple of cheapy guys out here. Like we're looking at Wan'Dale Robinson at 3,000. Yep. You're looking at, and I'm going like super cheap here. You're going under 5K. Tank Dell.
Sure.
Rashee Rice.
Yeah.
Scrolling down even, you got Rondale Moore here at 3,200 as a popular one. Calvin Austin. And then Michael Wilson. Yeah. So what that tells me here is that we are definitely paying down at wide receiver in a lot of spots.
Yes. And I said to you in our conversations off before the show, that is likely due to the fact that we're trying to fit in a Patrick Mahomes, Justin Jefferson, Travis Kelce into our lineups this week with that 54 game total or whatever it is, needing to find value somewhere. And you have the potential to play two $3,000 wide receivers this week, or two wide receivers below $4,000 on DraftKings. One in Michael Wilson, who coming off 7 targets, 76 yards and 2 touchdowns, had 86 yards the previous week against Dallas. Obviously just 2 targets in that one here, but a guy that is playing 60, 70% of the offensive snaps and maybe seeing that now increase. And then when I started making lineups and we kind of shared our lineups together, Rashee Rice is in both of our lineups here. I'm surprised he's not as popular as he is because of game stacking, right? You're going to get Patrick Mahomes in your lineup. Rashee Rice might be their true number one actual wide receiver at $3,600, and you have Travis Kelce up over 7K. Or if you're on FanDuel, he is 87.89. Shout out Taylor Swift, for the 89 reference there. But it makes a lot of sense to do Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce stack on DraftKings given the pricing here.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what, man, it is very tough to, fit in. Like I'm playing around with a lineup right now, and I've got Mahomes and Kelsey and Rashee Rice in there, and you try to slide in Justin Jefferson, and it becomes incredibly tough to do. Like like even there, even if you're going with Rondell Robinson, Rashee Rice, and you're paying down, you're using like David Montgomery and Breece Hall, you're still paying down a substantial amount of money here.
Yeah,
And it's
not easy. I think that's why I think you'll see Mahomes. I think we have the projections out there, but I wonder once the day comes, if you see less people in on Mahomes here because they just can't build the lineup, right? Like to get that exposure, or they play Mahomes, but they're pivoting down off of Justin Jefferson, right? I mean, and they find themselves more going to an Addison, or they double tight end it with Hawkinson and Kelsey to get that exposure there. So it'll be interesting to see how those stacks build out, but definitely the value of Wilson, Wandale, and Rashee Rice are where I'd be looking to go. We've done the Calvin Austin thing. I'm not going to go there. Rondale Moore, I would rather play Michael Wilson in that offense. So no, thank you for that for me. Any other wide receivers for you, Howard?
I'll give your boy Josh Downs a mention.
Sure.
I know how much you like Josh Downs.
I do. I like the matchup for Tennessee, or for the Colts in general against Tennessee. Obviously, Downs 2 for 34 last week. Richardson only completed 44% of his passes last week, but I would expect that number to bump this week against Tennessee. So we'll see.
We shall see. But I think that's probably about it. I don't think I'm missing any other super bargains, am I?
Nah, not unless we get news. Like Khalif Raymond starts or something like that, because there's no St. Brown. I don't know. Tight end position here. Actually, there was one more guy. What's your thoughts on Terrace Marshall? Is that your thoughts? You doing the John Travolta gift there? $3,600 Terrace Marshall had 18 targets the last 2 weeks. So
yeah, I hear you. I'm just, what it is. I can't trust that Carolina passing attack.
You just can't run on Detroit, and that's why. So I think they're going to have to throw the football to have any level of success.
They couldn't successfully pass on Minnesota last week, dude.
Well, there's a reason
Minnesota doesn't have a good. They don't have a good pass defense, and they've got a worse pass rush.
Right. No, totally understand. It's why all the reports this week were Carolina's in the market for a true number one pass catcher, because they're all in on Bryce Young. Well, no crap, you're all in on Bryce Young. You just traded away your future for him, and you probably drafted the wrong guy.
I love the fact that on the same day that they did that, DJ Moore goes for 230 yards and 3 touchdowns.
3 scores. Yeah, we need a real number one wide receiver. Well, maybe you should have drafted the 6'3" CJ Stroud or the 6'4", 240 Anthony Richardson, and not the 5'9", 180 Bryce Young. Maybe you should have done that, before when it came to taking the number one overall pick. So anyways, tight end position, you have Kelsey at $7,600. Super expensive, but hard not to think that people are going to be looking to get there in this spot. He is far and away the chalk in single entries. He's up there as well in multi GBP entry tournaments. So if you good on you, if you can fit him, a lot of the field is getting there. And then after that, it's kind of spread out pretty evenly. If there's no Sam Brown, does that increase Laporta for you? I know you talk a lot about the linebackers, Carolina, and their ability to cover the full, pass cover, but Laporta's $5K. Is there any interest for you at all here?
I mean, some minimal. I would say that's kind of, I'm not thinking that this. I think this is going to be a very big David Montgomery kind of a day. So when it comes to the tight end spot, I'm definitely in on Kelsey. I know Coop's a little bit more bullish on Darren Waller. If Saquon's going to be back, maybe that kind of helps open things up for him a little bit more.
There's also comments today, actually. How often do we hear a coach say we need to get this guy more involved, and then he gets just force fed? So I think it was either Daniel Jones or it might have been Dayball basically being like, we need to get Waller the ball earlier and often. So, could just be a case there of just force feeding Darren Waller the football here at 54. I liked Tyler Higbee, but I don't know anymore with Kupp coming back. Philadelphia continues to get torched by the tight end position. But if Cooper Kupp's now there, does Higbee continue to be a target share guy? Or is he now third, fourth in pecking order?
I think if Kupp comes back, I'm pivoting off of Higbee. I just added Dallas Goedert to the watch list because of the fact that the Rams don't cover the tight end particularly well. I think they're giving up the ninth most fantasy points per game to the tight end position. They rank fairly low in DVOA. And Goddard becomes a fantastic tournament play because everybody's down on him, right? A.J. Brown's getting all the attention. Everybody will pivot over to Devonta Smith. Everybody looks at DeAndre Swift. And Dallas Goedert is slowly but surely becoming the forgotten man. And when a guy becomes that forgotten man, that's kind of when I want to take a look at him. I mean, I see that in our ownership projections, they've got him at the second most?
Yeah.
Which is, tough. But, I mean, I think that's an intriguing – to me, that's the pivot off of Tyler Higbee, unless you're going to go down and you're going to hit, the Zach Ertz range.
Yeah, I think Ertz is where the field's going to look again. Outside of that matchup against Dallas, 8, 10, and 10 targets, 6 catches in all of them. It's a PPR format, $3,500. And again, you can't argue what Dobbs is doing throwing the football right now. We certainly didn't expect the Arizona passing offense to look better under Josh Dobbs than it would have under Kyler Murray the last couple of years. But, especially we know DeAndre Hopkins, but here we are, right? They're just, really having some really having some success throwing that football there. I'm looking at some DVO ranks against tight ends for Cincinnati here. Are they last? Hold on. Are they that bad against tight end? They are second to last in DVOA against a tight end as well, Howard. So Zach Ertz may be the green light special here at $3,500.
Sure. That's why I love that stack, that Dobbs, Michael Wilson, Zach Ertz stack.
Yeah,
I think that's
super cheap.
It's great. I mean, and you can legit have Jamar Chase coming back on that stack too, because Cincinnati's going to have to throw the ball if they're going to, if they want to win this one. We're not relying on Joe Mixon at all.
I agree. I don't know if I fell for that last week. I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't think I'd bring anybody back. You and I go back and forth on that all the time. I don't think you have to bring guys back in stacks, but I get why you would. That's game theory there. Anybody else at tight end for you? Is there a value play? You jumping back on the Durham Smythe train this week? I mean,
no. I saw Coop posted that in the tight end thing.
Yeah.
Listen, I've already got it here. There are certain plays that Coop singles out that I say to him, I'm writing this one down because I want to know at what point do you actually stop saying it.
Durham Smythe, yeah.
So Durham Smythe was just added to the list. I want to know exactly when he's dropping Dalton Kincaid from his season-long rosters.
He was recommending Dalton Kincaid this yesterday in a lot of start sits, and I was like, okay, we'll go.
You got to push back on that one, man. Dalton Kincaid. Because there's a difference. There's a difference between, if you're going to recommend a guy and you like the situation that he's in, okay, fine. But here we are now going into our 5th game of the season, and we haven't seen shit out of Dalton Kincaid, right? And it's just, that's fact. Josh Allen looks for Stephon Diggs. We're seeing him look for Dawson Knox. Gabe Davis is coming into play. There's not a lot of work. There's some going to Dalton Kincaid, but it's not to the point where you're like, yeah, this guy is like my tight end.
Right.
You hit with Sam Laporta, you miss with Dalton Kincaid. You got to move on from that unless there's such an unbelievable matchup for him for the week. And I don't know what the Jags even look like DVOA wise against the tight end. Here, I'll just
I actually have it. I have it up right here. Jacksonville
ninth
yeah.
in DVOA against the tight end.
Not good.
Not good. I mean, they are giving up 65 yards per game to them, which is good. But, I mean, that tells me that between Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, because, I mean, you know, they're 24th against the slot receiver. If Dalton Kincaid's lining up a ton in the slot, then maybe. But
sure. But Allen's got to look for it. So, yeah, it's all there. I don't have any other tight ends. I know that
I do.
You know, there's
Tyler Conklin.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know you don't like it. I don't like it either. It's filthy. It's dirty. But it is a strong vulnerability of the Denver Broncos.
Coop says Simmons is coming back this week, and like that's his takeout on tight end. So,
and Simmons is coming back. I've seen Simmons play and still get burned.
Sure. Yeah. Again, it's probably not where I'm going to go. I'll find the money for Ertz. He was my number 2 tight end. I even have lineups with Kelsey Ertz as a tight end flex. You know, I think that's a doable option here this week if you're looking to spend down.
Sure.
All right, let's get the defenses here. We got to get a lineup before we close out the show. Where's your top defense this week, Howard?
I do love the Ravens. Absolutely. I think they are a great play. I love the Dolphins at 3,600. I'm in on them. I think the Falcons are going to be an underrated defense. I love the Colts against Tennessee.
Okay.
I think I think Tannehill is just an abysmal mess. And I kind of like the Saints D this week also.
Yeah, lineups I sent you had the Saints. So far, the Saints are my defense in all my leagues. Rosters that I've built, which is, as a Patriots fan, depressing. But I've seen that offensive line and how bad they've been. I've also seen how bad Mac Jones has played. There's been a lot of rumblings, again, that if Mac Jones gets off to a slow start or a start that he did against Dallas, that Bailey Zappi could be in this game early. So, you know, I'm in on the Saints defense at 3K for sure. Arizona probably needs a look the way the Cardinals have looked offensively here. You got them at home. Joe Burrow only 160 yards last week against Tennessee. I mean, can't love what you're seeing out of them there, but I'm not going any lower here.
No, me neither. All
right, Bender, give me that lineup. What do you got?
All right, here you go. Put Patty Mahomes in there. Let's do a Chiefs stack here.
Okay.
Let's go Mahomes, Rashee Rice, and Travis Kelce.
All right.
Now, you can argue about coming back on something with the stack if you want, but I'm going to flex TJ Hawkinson in here. Chiefs are very weak against the tight end. Ranked very low in DVOA.
Okay. What's your defense?
Give yourself the Saints, buddy.
All right.
Get your Saints in there. Let's pay down at wide receiver. Let's go chalky chalk and say Michael Wilson at 3,700 and your boy Wan'Dale Robinson.
You're going all 3 values, huh?
All 3 values. Well, I mean, I would love to put, Justin Jefferson in there.
We're going Monty and Robinson here.
There you go. How's that look for you?
I mean, listen, the value wide receivers are something to look at because if they hit, I think this lineup is pretty strong. I'm not going to argue with you. I like it. Love the running backs. Love Montgomery, Robinson. Got Kelsey, Mahomes in there. I could see it play. I could see us getting there.
I mean, the issue is, the thing is like, because I've built other lineups here without it, without the Kelsey stack. In fact, I actually I built one with Dobbs in there where I've got Dobbs, Montgomery, and Bijan. I've got Jamar Chase coming back on my my Arizona stack with Michael Wilson and Rashee Rice. Mm-hmm. I've got Zach Ertz at tight end, the Dolphins D, and that allows me to flex AJ Brown.
So this was actually the lineup that I built. You were pretty close to what I had in one of my lineups. Mahomes, Montgomery, Robinson, Rice, Wilson, Addison, Kelsey, Ertz, and the Saints. So that was my Kelsey Ertz stack. Gets you Addison over Hawkinson for a little bit cheaper. You have $800 to play with, so you can move it around if you wanted to.
Well, I'll tell you what though. I mean, take out Ertz because you've already got Michael Wilson in there.
Sure.
You don't necessarily need to go with both guys there. You could put your boy Downs in there and then just pay and pay a little bit further up for some defense.
Sure. 36 gets you. I mean, you like the Falcons, could go there. So
I'd go Dolphins there. I mean,
you go Dolphins for the Giants, yeah, could get that done.
Bank on that Miami flu.
Yeah, Miami flu. I don't mind it. So just a couple of lineups for everybody here. Remember, today's your last day to get your 7-day free trial. Go to fantasyalarm.com/win if you haven't done so already. Join us for week 5. Get us on the live stream Monday morning at 9 a.m. Myself and Britt Flynn go over to SiriusXM. Then from 10 to 11, get Bender and Coop. And then right back here at the Fantasy Alarm YouTube channel for myself and Andrew Cooper, 11 to 12. Getting you all ready with all the latest news and updates for NFL Week 5. Bender, final words for people at home.
Keep crushing it, baby. Keep crushing it. If you didn't win last week in DFS, it's okay. It's all right. I didn't win last week in DFS, but I won the first 3 weeks, so I'm feeling very good about that. Let's nail it down for week 5.
Nailed down for week 5, everybody. Good luck. Let's go make some money.